Hello everyone, in this video we're finally going to be looking at a balanced mage build. Now I know a lot of you wanted me to do this for quite a long time. The main reason why I haven't done it is because I guess mage takes a bit longer than the other classes to build, and I don't particularly like doing mage. But in this video we're going to be looking at a mage that should be able to do Fatal Bridge somewhat comfortably. No messing around, we're going to go straight into the general stats, and as you can see it's pretty balanced. Strength at 6k the highest, stamina second highest at 6k, dexterity 5k, and intelligence 2k. And I guess this is what I meant by mage being taking longer to build, because unlike warrior and archer where you can ignore intelligence, with mage intelligence is the class main stat, and so as a result you do have to have some intelligence, and therefore you need to build a balanced character. We're going on to the offensive skills now. Damage is at 16k. You'd want it to be a bit higher, but that should be all right for Fatal Bridge. Haste isn't as important. Armor pen is only 78%, so that's really low. You definitely want that to be at least around your 80-85%. Critical rate 100%. Critical severity 870%. That is pretty good. Skill recovery, usually we don't really look at it, but because we are a mage that's gonna be somewhat high at 50.3%. and also control power is at 66.9%. again, we don't usually look at it, but because we're a mage that stat is going to be higher than usual. Now we're looking on to the defensive stats, and health is at 135k, which is all right. Magic shield, because we are a mage, we're gonna have quite a lot of magic shield. Health regen is 6k. Defense is 90%, which is really good. Block rate 100%, really good. And block severity is 90%, with control resistance at 19%. So actually I would say that defensively we are really good, and we're very well equipped for Fatal Bridge. I think attackingly, offensively we could be a bit better. In terms of the special stats now, mana 812, that should be enough for us to cast all the skills that we want to. So I think overall we are somewhat ready for Fatal Bridge. I think defensively we're really good, but you'd want to improve attackingly, and as a result we're going to probably be using potions. Now we're going to be looking at the equipment that I'm using. I'm not going to go through all of them individually, but I am going to make some comments. I'm using the samurai set because the set bonuses are strength and dexterity, which is really helpful. I wanted to use the bone staff because I wanted armor pen, I wanted critical rate, but I couldn't find it, so I'm using this bow instead, this staff instead. It's not as good, but it'll have to do. Most of my block rate, block severity, defense is coming from my rings. They're really defensive. I'm using protector's rings, so that should help me take less damage. They've also got a passive ability that does damage reduction. I'm using a mix of unique and non-unique items because I think that's probably the best option here. For my runes, I'm using Oppression Rune and the Immunity Rune because the Oppression Rune does more damage if you stun, and as a mage I'll be doing a lot of stunning. Immunity Rune obviously to take less damage. Gems, I'm using Dexterity and Strength. I'm using a mixture of them both. I wanted to use more Strength, but I needed to keep Dexterity at 100%, so I have used a mixture of both. Now we're going to be looking at my passive skill tree, and as you can see here, this really shows you how balanced my mage is. I've got stuff from all over and from every class. I've got some block rate, some crit rate. I've got the adaptation passive from the archer section. I've managed to get some critical severity, block severity, armor pen, strength from the warrior section, but I also wanted to get as much mana as I could, so I went up to the very top to get some mana. So as you can see, very balanced in the passive skill tree. So obviously the big question that everyone has on their mind is, how does this character, how does this build do in Fatal Bridge? And the answer is simple, it does really well. I didn't die. Obviously I did use some potions, but defensively, we were really good. There were a few times where the immunity rune really had to come in clutch to save me from death, but apart from that, obviously we have got 100% block rate, 90% block severity, and 90% defense, so we are good when it comes to not dying. Offensively, we did struggle a bit, especially towards the end. I think especially the Thunder Knights and stuff, we took quite a long time to kill, but we did eventually. I think if you're going to do this build, you want to try and make sure that you have more armor pen. You could do this by either using more specific armor pen equipment or by leveling up and increasing armor pen that way. But we were able to complete it Fatal Bridge eventually. We did struggle a bit in terms of doing damage. In terms of actually building this character, it is going to take a bit of time and a bit of effort compared to the other classes, because unlike the other classes, you're taking every single general stat into consideration. You're probably going to end up using potions more than a warrior or an archer, and you'll probably need to be higher level than a warrior or an archer to reach the same level in terms of, you know, doing damage and efficiency. One question that people might ask me is why I didn't use any intelligence gems, and the reason why is because although intelligence is a mage's main general stat, it's not really useful in endgame, and I think that's probably one of the problems with having a mage, is that with a warrior's main stat is strength, and strength is really important for armor pen, block severity, etc. For a archer, it is dexterity, again critical rate, block rate, those are also really important. But with a mage, intelligence doesn't really increase anything important, and so you don't really want to use that much intelligence, which is why, although I am a mage, my lowest stat in general stat was intelligence. So when you're building it and you're a lower level and you're grinding for levels, you can use intelligence gems, but I think you'll find that if you use dexterity or strength gems, you'll progress quicker in the game. The final thing I want to talk about is the active skills. Now, there's two in particular I want to talk about, and that is Magma Burst and Chain Lightning. The reason why these two in particular is because I guess Heal Wave is pretty obvious for healing. Meteor, although it costs 100 mana, has a low cooldown and therefore is pretty effective. I mean, it does a lot of damage. And Storm Cool is pretty obvious too, because I mean, you've seen how effective it is when Thunder Knight is using it to one-shot you, so that's why I'm using it. But I want to talk about Magma Burst and Chain Lightning. We'll start with Magma Burst. Some might ask why I'm not using Water Push, because it also does stun. The reason why is because Water Push, when you do it, it pushes a ball of water, I guess, forward, which is good. But with Magma Burst, what you can do, especially in Fatal Bridge as it is an open area, you could jump and do it, so it spreads over a bigger area and obviously a larger impact. Obviously, if you're standing on the higher point of Fatal Bridge, you can also jump even higher and spray, so that's pretty effective. And the reason I'm using Chain Lightning and not Acid Rain is because with Chain Lightning, if there are multiple enemies coming at you from both sides, which with Fatal Bridge there are, you can target more enemies at once. And also, because of the Oppression rune, obviously if you stun an enemy, they deal more damage, and Chain Lightning is able to stun enemies pretty regularly.